America doesn't have a lot of things is because of racism. Because white people can't enjoy an ice cream cone without knocking one out of the hands of a black person. So now can't nobody have ice cream. If racism wasn't the foundation of the United States in every single institution that is in the United States, we would all be living in an entirely different reality. One where everybody has universal health care, one where we wouldn't have credit scores. Credit scores are a fairly recent invention. They were invented in 1989 by the Fair Isaac Corporation, otherwise known as FICO, and it was supposed to be to assess the credit risk for lenders. It was a standardized way to help lenders to see who they should and shouldn't lend to. Guess who they didn't lend to, guys? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a black people. Student loans is another one. As soon as more black people started going to college, that's when the cost of college skyrocketed. Speaking of credit risk, you would assume that lending $100,000 to a literal child would be a risky, thing to do, but that's where they make the exception. So it's easy for a kid to go into debt, but if you're a grown person attempting to get lent some money to start a business or get lent some money to buy a house, which also the price of those went up, then yeah, now you're a risk. We have created an entire, rental class of people where somebody can have paid thousands of dollars into rent every month, but they're still not able to buy a house because your renting history does not count towards your credit. So now nobody can enjoy nice things because white people have been going around knocking ice cream cones out of black people's hands for hundreds of years. But I didn't own slaves. The shittiness of this country is all based on making sure that black people do not have a good experience here in this country. Yes, it's also about exploitation, making sure that black people continue to be exploited along with all rest of the underclass populations. But the cruelty is also very much the point. So the bad vibes here is because of racism. It's because everybody is having a crappy time because white people can't stop themselves from squeezing black people, from policing black people, from making sure that, are you supposed to be in first class? Wait. Do you live here? Is this, wait. You want to get paid a living wage? White people are given a diet of seeing themselves as victims, as seeing themselves as powerless, and seeing themselves as colorblind so that they can go like this and continue to perpetuate systems that hurt black people disproportionately and then bleed over into hurting everybody else. This is why when the Civil Rights Act happened and it helped black people, it helped everybody. It helped women. It helped disabled people. And then they unalived Martin Luther King because he was about to touch on class consciousness. He was taking a deep breath in and he was going to say, and another thing. And the American government took him out so fast. The moment white people, regular white people, the ones who think that they're powerless and the ones that think that they're colorblind, the moment that they get critical thinking skills and stop thinking some people deserve this human right and some people deserve that human right, we would be cooking with gas. But white people want to be seen as innocent and, whoa, that's not my problem, dude. Like, okay, well, it's not your problem, but it is your problem because you have credit scores, you have student loans, you can't afford health care, you can't afford a house either. It's our problem. Fix it.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you are watching me from. They say that the judgment will one day come to white America. And I think those are one of the days that America, right now, everyone is looking at America and it feels like it's a judgment day. And I said, and I will always say, there is no country that will be successful by continuing spilling blood, by continuing using sweat of people, by continuing taking advantage and forming allies with people that doesn't care about humanity. The relationship between the US and the Israel has been a questioning issue, and we've seen certain kinds of pattern that we are seeing. And all this has spelled to what we call white supremacy. And this is just what Black Americans have been grappling with for the longest time. And it feels like the United States is on the verge of a judgment, because when we get to see the sequence of things that are happening right now, when we get to see the decisions that the United States is making, You can totally see that right now there is nothing like fear. You can totally see that right now they are exposing themselves. You can totally see that right now they aren't fearing nothing. And they're just being who they are. Majority of white Americans supported racism. Majority of white Americans voted for Mr. Donald Trump. But we all know, we all understand there's not a rocket science what they stand for, what they represent, and what they want. And this all tells you, because as the saying goes, if a person shows you who they are for the first time, don't wait for another version for the second time, because majority of the time, the first impression about people always matters. And right now we are seeing it's like the United States is at a verge of judgment, because everyone is looking the United States at a critical lens. And now it makes sense that all these things that are happening to the United States, it is not just something that you can explain like normal. It has been caused by something. The lives of the people of the United States become so much hard because the president of the United States decided to make it so hard for them. Let's talk about racism itself inside the United States, something which is so much crazy. And black people can write you paragraphs of instances that they have faced racism. But this is backed up by a person who is the president of the United States. He is the one that gives these people keys. He is the one that gives these people confidence of perpetrating their racism towards other people. And all this is appealing to people outside there. When we get to see the geopolitical issues that are happening around the United States, that really tells you a lot. Brothers and sisters, I want us to watch this video and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts. Until then, let's watch this video. I'll be back with my thoughts and commentaries in regards to this. I'll be back.
The fact that black people never got reparations and we still came out thriving is kind of crazy. Because like, yo, they really set us free and we didn't have shit, not a pot to piss, and we didn't even have our last names. Family we came with, who knows where the fuck they were. And we still ended up being doctors, lawyers, presidents. Like, do you know how great you gotta be to overcome some shit like that? Like, we came from nothing, bruh. Like, we didn't even speak this language when our people got here. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? That no other group has been capable of this. No other group. And I just thought, like, yo, if we did get reparations, y'all think the Jewish folks own everything? Oh, we would have been unstoppable, bruh. We would have been unstoppable. Y'all still trying to stop us to this day.
This gentleman right here, he was taking a break. But then while he was taking a break, he decided, as soon as I came to the register, for his ass to come and stand behind me. And it's no joke, no real joke, okay? I ain't bullshitting about what's going on with me and mine, because I'm not a thief. It's one thing I'm not, is a thief. But I'm in this neighborhood where yuppies live and guppies die. Man, please. This is some, you know. Let me get my ass to my car. Well, I got a chauffeur waiting on me. True story. Paid for it. At the sweat of my back.
Just one generation. The black community can get one generation to have a good, just no unfairness. When you have the vice president defending me being called a monkey, or the watermelon people who look like me, the black community, being called monkeys. The vice president of the United States defended that, saying, oh, we can't just, hold them accountable. They're just kids, just kids talk. We can't hold them accountable for a long period of time. Just a month ago, y'all got people fired for speaking negative about CK. The last time I checked, Trayvon Martin, that's a child. Tamir Rice, Michael Brown. As a matter of fact, I'll even say Breonna Taylor. Those are all children, right? Because there was a 25, 30-year-old in that little group chat too. But somehow, the vice president can defend them. But you want to always tell me it's not about race. The Voting Act right is about to be overturned. so that way they could dilute the black vote. DEI got removed, even though that benefited white women more than anybody else. Black Lives Matter on the little streets, removed. Black mayor-run cities have been attacked by the president. Slavery and black history has been removed or watered down in our museums across the nation. Over 300,000 black women have been fired or let go from their jobs and counting. But you want to tell me it's not about racism. Racism is why your life is expensive. Racism is why you cannot function in this society. And you feel like everything here is unfair because it is. Because of racism. It's not a social class issue. If it was just a social class issue, there would be a hell of a lot more millionaires and billionaires because of the opportunities that we have here in this country that y'all like to proudly brag about. It gets to a point, at this point, I've been really flustered all day about this, to be honest with y'all. I really have. I've been doing really good with having a peace of mind, but this voting action right is really bothering the hell out of me. So what I really want to get to is like this King's protest, this No King's protest. Make that shit count. Make it impactful. Make sure when you guys are in those streets, y'all not worried about your kids having a daycare or nothing, having fun. No. Make it worth it. Boycott everything. You shouldn't be subscribing to anything in this nation anymore. And I don't care if it's Netflix, Disney, HBO, DoorDash, Uber Eats. Get rid of all of it. Make your voice and make your money talk. Let them resonate. You need to resonate with them. You need to make them hurt the way they're making you hurt. I don't know. I'm beyond this. The VP defended us getting called monkeys. That's crazy.
The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, is now demanding that the United States of America pays him $230 million for emotional distress and harm. I can't believe that this video is real. Here's everything that you need to know. Trump is demanding this lump sum from the Justice Department for the harm he suffered, onset by the federal investigations and criminal charges that he has faced in the last 4 years. Now, if this demand is met and he's paid the $230 million, that's going to be paid for by you, the American taxpayer. So what's next? Well, now the Justice Department gets to determine if they want to approve or deny his claim for $230 million. But here's the thing. One of the two people that could approve his claim would be Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Here's the thing about Todd Blanche. He's one of Donald Trump's lawyers and has been one of Donald Trump's personal attorneys for years. Meaning that he is literally, not figuratively, but literally on Trump's payroll. So spread the word because your tax dollars may very well be going into Donald Trump's personal bank account here pretty soon. That's all for now.
Never forget that the United States was built on stolen land with stolen people who were massacred and brutalized. All of this that is happening right now is a direct response to white people being pissed off that this country elected a black man to be president, not once, but twice. And he was and still is beloved. This is an inherently racist country. And until we face that, admit that, and dismantle it, we're going to keep having these problems.
Jackass from the other day, I didn't know who he was, but he's made a response after he saw my video. So I'm going to let you hear some of what he said as a black conservative, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on the other side.
You talking about accountability got someone in their feelings. But let me break down what I mean. This is actually a perfect example of why the black community still struggles. The game is becoming better in building and incentivizing people to want to build more in those areas. That is the conversation we should be having, not complaining about not getting money from daddy government. The biggest difference between him and I is I'm focusing on what we're doing. He's focused on what the government's doing. And that brings me full circle to the entire point of the video I made. If you're not focusing on what you're doing and bettering your life, and you're waiting for the government to fix that problem, and they're not fixing that problem, you will continue to vote for that party because they're telling you they're going to fix that problem when they're not. And that's what black Americans are doing with Democrats. They perpetually vote Democrats, but Democrats are actually not incentivized to fix Black Americans' problems.
Now, Jeff, I just found out about you, but let me give you some more data because you don't like that. Number 50, Louisiana ranks number 50 in the nation. We've got a Republican as our governor, a Republican over every other statewide office. Republicans run the state legislature in the supermajority, as well as the Board of Education. So when you say that Black people are loyal to Democrats and that we need to get away from the Democratic Party, well, Republicans run Louisiana, Alaska, and Mississippi, and they rank 48, 49, and 50 in the country. But you're still bragging on your party, buddy. Now, Jeff, people like you typically don't have a problem with people who retweet you like Elon Musk having $38 billion in corporate welfare. But if a Black person asks for access to healthcare in their community, they're begging and the problem. But see, I'm not like you who built my platform off of talking about Black people as a liability. I built my platform talking about Black people as assets and bringing resources to the assets that are in Black communities so that we can thrive. Now, let me go deeper explaining what I mean when I say run the Black community, our money. Earl K. Long Hospital, which was closed by Bobby Jindal, a conservative. Republican Bill Cassidy used to teach doctors at Earl K. Long Hospital. I organized along with others to get an emergency room back in North Baton Rouge after conservatives closed the hospital that Bill Cassidy was teaching people in North Baton Rouge, which eliminated the access to care to over 200,000 people in my community. Why does that matter? Because my 80-year-old daddy lived in that community. He had hypertension and I cared about his ability to get to a hospital in the event of a heart attack or a stroke. You know, data points that you don't care about. And that's why I called you a jackass, because when you refer to a Black community as a liability rather than an asset, you excuse and dismiss the Black people like my father, who moved into the same neighborhood I live in today in the 90s. This neighborhood, all Black, riding around with my daughter, manicured yards, Black folks living in this neighborhood, but their government attempting to move all of the resources that they have paid into to the other side of town. And that sales tax that I talked about, that roads tax, was a sales tax. That roads tax was paid for by all of the citizens of this community. For people who say, well, the white people pay more in taxes. Well, the sales tax is paid by everybody who buys a loaf of bread. 1 penny off your dime every time you go to the store. And if I'm going to spend a dime, I want to make sure that those pennies come back to my community. Now, since you wanted to give a data point on Black women in North Baton Rouge, let me go ahead and school you about what I mean when I say the government run us our money. This is me fighting for hundreds of millions of dollars to stay in North Baton Rouge.
Equitable, what is fair? You can't tell us that $110 million investment is the same as a $40 million investment. That's taking marble floors out of my house and putting vinyl down and telling me you didn't decrease the value of my property. We ain't stupid. Now, I know you all are the experts, but I'm the smartest man in the room, said the jackass.
Now, the zoo, which is on the border of Baker and Baton Rouge, Baker being the safest city in the state of Louisiana for years on end, a majority Black city with a Black mayor, with a Black chief of police and a majority Black council, they were attempting to move the zoo, which the Parks and Recreation Department, quality of life things, was attempting to move to the other side of town, which is majority white. We organized community meetings. We kept the zoo. Now that which was going to be $100 million investment is a $300+ million investment. And 30% of those resources are going to people who look like you and I, even though you don't think like people like me, because all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Let's keep going. And to be clear, no one is suggesting that the government is stopping us. You brought up Greenwood and the cities that were burned down by white people.
The people in North Baton Rouge could build their community up. Black Americans could build Black Wall Street up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with lynchings and Jim Crow laws from nothing, with no government help. And you know what I'm talking about, and you know it's true. If Black Americans could do that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's zero excuse today, none.
It was the government who permitted them to get away with it. You do know that, right? And it's the government who permitted the state of Louisiana to rob Southern University, which is located in North Baton Rouge, of $1.2 billion over the last 30 years, while we're currently spending $50 million to redo the LSU lakes, which increases the quality of life for the people who live in South Baton Rouge, around LSU, which is majority white. But this HBCU that has the #1 nursing program in the country has been robbed of $1.2 billion. And I guess you don't think that those Black folks ought to ask for their damn money. And the reason I know clearly it's a system is because even though our school system is 80% Black, and the white citizens said that it was so bad that they needed to start a new city that was 70% white, now they want to send their kids to our magnet schools in their new city, even though they said it was so trash. But every time Black people have accrued more political power, they've changed the rules to create a new form of government to ensure that they could maintain power over the tax dollars, the resources, the money. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand how government works. Now you think I'm angry, but I'm not. I'm passionate. And anytime I hear somebody like you discussing the black community like a liability versus an asset, I'm on your ass like white on rice, because I do this work. And I think it's high time we stop letting the propaganda slide and we start educating people against the BS that you all put out there, because otherwise we're going to mislead some people. Now I know you don't care nothing about that, just like you don't care nothing about data, Jeff, because wisdom is chasing you. But you're so fast. Now, where I'm from, we got a phrase when we see people like you who are chasing white adjacency. Bless his heart, y'all. Do good. Seek justice. And Jeff, remember, you can sell your people out, but you can't buy them back. Keep pushing. Oh, and when you said this?
Zero excuse today. None. You sound like a bitch.
You must have been talking about your mama. I'm from Baton Rouge. You got to come harder than that to offend me.
I got something to say. Here goes. ICE is doing the same thing to Latinos that the government did in Tulsa and to black communities all over the United States. Disrupt the accumulation of wealth by people of color. And that's a commentary on the fragility of white supremacy more than anything else. Because success in those communities where they have inferior resources doesn't just mean a transfer of wealth. It means that white people are definitely not better than blacks and Latinos, even when the odds are stacked in our favor. Gumbo is better than bisque, ribs are better than prime rib, liver and onions is better than foie gras, and chicharrones are better than braised pork belly. More with less. And when those communities, black or brown, do more with less, white supremacists must step in and disrupt that progress. The perception of superiority must be upheld. After all, the perception is the only part that's ever been real anyway. The good news is that we also aren't inferior. White Americans could have equally kick-ass culture as people of color. We've just got to stop being assholes to everyone else and maybe have a little damn humility. And you personally may not be the one who put people of color down. You may not even be the person who kicked them when they were down. And you may not be the one using your boot to keep them down. But if you can see it happening and you refuse to help or even acknowledge that it's happening, baby, you're part of that. Apathy is oppression.
Do you know how there's the HBCUs, which stands for the historically black college universities? If we were to say there's an HWCU and say it's historically white college university, would we be called racists? That's a yes.
Girl, shut the fuck up. You thought you ate that?
There's a fundamental lack of knowledge and understanding of the history of the country we live in by the majority of the people in this country who don't look like me. To come online and say, if white people had white-only schools, that they will be racist. Well, here's a brief history as to why HBCUs exist. It wasn't until 1954 with Brown versus Board of Education that schools were legally desegregated, meaning prior to that, black people were not allowed to go to the better schools with white people. We weren't allowed to go to white hospitals. We weren't allowed to use white facilities. Therefore, we had to build our own. This is a very popular picture of a little girl named Ruby Bridges, who's still alive today and only in her 60s, where the National Guard had to escort her to school because she was the first black girl to desegregate a school, and they had to protect her from white adults from hurting her. There were riots, there were protests. So to answer your question, revert to this image, cut to every time we did build our own, you burned it, you destroyed it, you eminent domained it, you built highways through it, or you flooded it. Seneca Village, Lake Lanier, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, just to name a few. I could never understand how people can come online and make statements like this with their chest without picking up the phone. We have the World Encyclopedia in our palm. Just to Google, why do HBCUs exist? And as a white person, not to understand that PWIs are the standard in America and 90% of the colleges are white institutions still to today, those white institutions segregated and discriminated against us. HBCUs and black people have never discriminated against anyone else. To be white in this country means to be discriminatory. And that's just the status quo for what it means to be black. I was having this conversation this weekend with my cousin about how much energy it takes to be racist. And he said, well, you know, a lot of people are just misinformed, and that ignorance is weaponized by the right in order to make them think that people are taking their jobs they would never do, that black people are getting ahead because of D&I, which is why D&I existed, because we were actually systematically, legally discriminated upon. When I thought about that and I saw this video, I'm like, oh, this is a simple education thing. This country doesn't teach the real history of this country, because 90% of white people, let's just say I'm going to go high on that figure, majority of white people in this country don't have any exposure to black people. Unless you live on the coast or you're in a major city, you don't really have exposure to anyone else but your rural white town. So why would you know anything about HBCUs? Why would you know anything about why D&I or affirmative action exists? Why would you believe anything outside the realm of what you live in? So I implore you, sir, pick up a book, learn the history of the country we live in, and understand why black institutions had to be built, because we were not allowed to be American, the very thing that we are.
I was just doing some research and it hit me. Black people have been calling for delineation. This is different than the boycott, but they were calling for delineation. And you can hear throughout the week, you can hear the anger and the upset in a lot of Black Americans' voices. But when I look at it and I think about what's been going on, Black Americans have been experiencing a paper genocide. Now, tell me if that's too strong of a statement, but if I were just to look at what's been going on in legislation, documentation, immigration, it is the intentional erasure of Black American history and Black American culture. So I don't say this lightly. I know those are strong words, but the upset and the uproar by quote unquote foundational Black Americans is because they understand, you know, we going out for Palestine, we going out for all these other injustices. But here at home, we are experiencing a paper genocide, and we have to come together, make sure that doesn't happen. I heard many prophets say on TikTok, Trump was going to bring back righteousness, and everybody mocked those prophets. But the righteousness is that people are waking up to the truth. I don't know. Y'all tell me in the comments if I'm really just reading too much into this.
You as white people are obligated to right wrongs that your ancestors did. White people want Black people to stop talking about it and don't make me feel bad about myself, and I'm not a bad person, and yes, you are. If you don't want to hear it, too bad. The responsibility falls on your shoulders.
All right, I'm just going to break this down as clearly as I can. You are not owed anything because of the color of your skin, and I certainly don't owe you anything because of the color of mine. I've never owned a slave a day in my life, and you've never been one. Neither were our parents, neither were our grandparents. You have bought into the leftist lie that you are owed something because of the color of your skin because you cannot achieve it yourself. You have chosen to sacrifice your personal responsibility and your dignity, and that is not my problem, and I am under no obligation whatsoever to fund your sense of entitlement.
I feel like the church throws out the word demonic too loosely. You want to know what demonic is? Demonic is American chattel slavery, the dehumanization of Black Americans in this country, okay? Not giving these people their reparations, okay? It's also using African American hair for pillows, couches, and mattresses, using slave skin for leather. That's demonic. Trump throwing immigrants in Alcatraz. If they try to escape, they're going to get bit by alligators. Okay? Concentration camps in 2025. That's demonic. Okay?
You want to know what's the most ironic thing about this whole fuck around and find out situation? Is that the people who voted red, all you Republicans, y'all voted not because you thought he was going to make your life easier, but because you knew he was going to make our lives harder. See, if we just go back in history, every single time figures out a way to advance socially, economically, politically, it doesn't matter. Every single time that we figure out a way to advance, what happens? More stipulations are put into place, more laws get passed, there's always a moving of the goalpost. And you know what really pisses them off is the fact that we keep figuring out a way to get to the goal. We keep figuring out a way to get to the goal. No matter what they do, we keep figuring out a way. But here's the thing about it. All them stipulations, all those laws being passed, it still affects them. It affects them. And now it's harder for their kids to do things. It's harder for their grandkids to do things. They want it to only affect us. And so they were hoping that putting Trump in office was going to be that final stipulation that can basically make America great again. You understand, where the white people can just always take the scenic route. You understand, they could always get the shortcut while we have to go through a back alley. That's the thing. But see, where you guys really fucked around and found out is that there's a new class system that's being put into place, and it has nothing to do with your skin complexion. It has nothing to do with your race. It has everything to do with your tax bracket, bitch. Your tax bracket. And you guys weren't paying attention to that. You thought that your proximity to whiteness, or you actually being white, was going to save you, like it's always done time and time again. However, Trump, President Elon Musk, and Vice President Trump do not give a fuck about you. Even the people that were making $100,000 a year who voted for him. I have family members who voted for him because they want to be rich. And they thought that they were going to get a tax cut. Instead, you're paying more on top of the taxes that he has everybody paying, that was put into office and put into our government in 2019. A lot of you guys think that we're under Kamala and Biden's, and no, we're not. We're under Trump, baby. Still. Everybody complaining about this economy. We're under Trump's economy from his last term. So all of you who voted knowing that he was not going to make your life easier, but we're counting on the fact that you thought that he was going to make our lives harder, is really feeling the ramifications behind fuck around and find out. Even you boomers who are on fixed incomes is feeling it. Y'all feeling it. And guess what? Us brown and black people, we're used to this shit. We used to this shit. We're going to complain, we're going to cry, but guess what? We're going to figure it the fuck out, because that's what we always do. You guys, though, y'all never had a backup plan. Y'all never had to find out.
When they first started to recruit people to come to work here, right, about 5 or 6 decades ago, they told them that the African Americans were lazy people and they did not want to work. Meanwhile, at that time, it was because they didn't want to pay African Americans more money. They wanted to give them slavery wages. But African Americans were trying to hold out for more pay. Instead of paying African Americans more, what they did was recruit black people from the Caribbean.
I just want to say, like, so much respect for this woman for getting on and telling the truth, because I feel increasingly frustrated. It's really been on my heart, especially these last few days, about the anti-Black American sentiment that comes so too often from people that look like us, people who have immigrated to America within the last, few decades, but literally act as though we're just something that's here that is not deserving of what we have, that we have no culture, that we have no work ethic, that we have no fight in us. And it's like, let's be for real. You would not be able to come over here if it was not for everything that we have endured, everything that we have fought for and continue to fight for, to make America a place that has allowed for people of all colors to be able to try to chase the American dream. But you don't want to be honest. I feel like this is especially true. A couple of days ago, I went to this event, and it was a Muslim event, and it was talking about anti-Blackness among Arabs and South Asians. I mean, we already know the spiel. We already know how they get down. But something I feel like we don't talk about enough as well is that a lot of the diasporic people who are within the Muslim community, within the American community in general, they look down on Black Americans, or their favorite words that they like to call us, just as much as the non-Black people, the non-Black immigrants. And we have to be honest about this. And it really does, like, you feel it a little deeper when it comes from people who look like you. You know, for me, I couldn't care less what a non-black person thinks about me, particularly if they came here because their country has either been colonized or destroyed by America. You're looking at the wrong enemy, because not one black American has done a thing to you for you to have this much smoke for us. But when you see another black person coming who might just have a different accent, who has also had experiences with being torn down in every way possible by colonizers, by Europeans, and then to feel as though some reason we are more deserving of that treatment, it doesn't make sense to me. And to be honest, I don't know if it's coming from a place of insecurity of wanting to be the top Negro, but it's not cute at all. I love all my people, especially all my black people around the world, but we have to be honest. And I just really feel like black Americans are very disrespected.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I mean, you can probably see that right now where the United States is headed and where the world and how the world is seeing the United States today. All that you see is happening is coming to happen because there is a judgment. There is a judgment that is currently going on. Probably people haven't seen or understood like really what's happening. And as time goes by, the United States keep on getting exposed in its geopolitical decisions, in everything that it does. It keeps on manifesting every damn time. People keep on seeing the truth, and people keep on seeing a given pattern. But hey, white America will one day pay for the sins that it has caused, for the harms that it has caused to the United States itself, and for the harms that it has caused to other people. It is really diabolical. It is really problematic that we are having a group of people that really don't understand the devastating effects that this has left other people. And brothers and sisters, we are really seeing, and we are getting to see the Babylon keep on falling, because this is happening in real time, and everyone is getting to see the United States for what it is. And this is how it has been doing to black people. And right now, it's spreading outside. And people right now are starting to see what the United States is. And people are like, damn, this is what we used to support. And you know what? Everyone is leaving Danny the boy. Everyone is leaving Donnie the boy. Everyone is leaving Mr. Donald Trump. Because right now they are saying what black Americans have been saying, but on a larger scale. Just 2 days ago, the issue of Iran, US, Israel is really revealing a lot, and is really telling a lot about the decisions that Mr. Donald Trump makes. It really tells a lot. It really reveals a lot of how all these things happen. And if you want to know the truth, you can definitely see that Mr. Donald Trump have no respect for human life. It's the same way he didn't have respect for black people's life. 400 years ago, black people being enslaved, going through a lot of problems, going through a lot of challenges, all because a white person wants to flex their supremacy. Same way, and I said that this is now happening on a larger scale, because right now, still we have white people that are trying to show their supremacy on a military level. And you're getting to see this happening. And I really don't know what you think about this. But these are those days that are coming. Somebody say that America, white America, you deserve what is coming. Our history, the book, the Bible says, you reap what you sow. And indeed, time is coming when America will reap what it sowed. Babylon the Great is fallen and is becoming the habitation of devils. So many things are happening. And all this is just revealing the crumble. It's revealing the falling of the United States. And definitely what people need to know, how people really need to perceive this. Because it's exposing all the weaknesses. It's exposing all these things that we are seeing happening. And so, brothers and sisters, I really don't know what you think about this. The truth, I'm a foundational black American. My ancestors were enslaved here in America, and it's way past time for these people to receive their karma, their sins. the sins of their ancestors has finally come upon them. Karma. We are watching America fall in real time. Indeed, people are watching America fall in real time because karma is now working. Somebody said that, my people, we are not looking at the spiritual side. Yahweh is moving to detach us from this racist Babylonian system. It's all going towards his plan. Be still and let him work. We already have the victory. Somebody is saying that our ancestors endured the unthinkable, stolen from their homeland, chained in ships, soaked with blood and sickness, beaten until their backs split open, women and girls raped and bred like cattle, men mutilated and humiliated, babies used as alligators' baits, and human hair stuffed into chains as trophies. They were whipped, burned, hung from trees, and falsely accused to satisfy the lies and tears of white women whose words could summon death. Towns they built with pride were bombed and burned to ash, family torn apart, and souls sold again and again. Yet, through every horror, they survived, prayed, created, and carried the strength that ran through us today. Their pain built this nation. Their resilience built our power. That's the truth about what's really going on. So, I really don't know. Now, this is the last comment that I'm going to be reading. Somebody said that the US is a modern day Babylon. Corruption, greed, immortality, lawlessness, injustice, and pain. All thirsty wickedness. All you can do is stay near and dear to God, because his wrath is about to come upon this world and this country. Wake up and pay attention to what is going on around you. It is not going to get any better. This is Bible prophecy happening before our eyes. Yeah, really. This is all that is happening, and we are all getting to see this happen. So, brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think about this. Right. I'm your host and presenter Generic Stories, but until then, I'm hoping to see you on my next video. But until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.